and I am the Managing Director at Transition Partners. If you don't know us, we specialise in IT, business change, transformation and digital recruitment, not only in the UK, but over in Europe as well. We get heavily involved in the tech community, and we run around 30 tech events a year, usually in our lovely office in Leeds. But with everything that's gone on with COVID, we've unfortunately had to make everything online, which has been actually fantastic because we've been able to reach a wider audience than usual. So we've had a lot of fun throughout the process. This evening, with it being a webinar, there is a Q&A section at the bottom, so feel free to put any questions you have at the bottom, and at the end of the panel Sarah will come back through all your questions and hopefully answer those for you. Really pleased to be able to discuss what the tech is next tonight. So we've run a series, my colleague Melanie actually set up the series with Sarah. We've had 2 webinars already, and this is the 3rd one in the series. The initial was called What the Tech is Going On, to help organisations and people through the challenging times that we're going through with ideas, and really just a platform to be able to come together as a community and talk about everything that's going on at the moment. We've once again teamed up with the fantastic women in Leeds Digital to bring another event this evening. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Sarah Tulip. Hello, Sarah.
The tech failing already. Good evening, Ellie, and thank you so much for having me again. And yeah, it's the 3rd edition, so we must be doing something right. Been fantastic feedback, so thank you for doing these. Tonight we've got an amazing lineup. So yeah, I'm Sarah Tulip. I'm one of the co-founders of Women in Leeds Digital, but also the digital ambassador for the City of Leeds, and also work as a director at EY working with tech businesses. So this is very much where my passion lies, this particular industry. So we have a stellar panel tonight. I've been really excited about this. So it would be great to let the guys introduce themselves. So first of all, I think we'll start with Gav. Gav, would you like to tell us a bit about you and your business and what you've been up to?
Sure, yeah. I'm Gav Winter. I'm CEO of Rapid Spike. Rapid Spike are very interested in the performance and security on the client side of e-commerce platforms, or to be honest, every single website in the world. And our mission is to make every single digital experience more exciting and amazing and secure for every single person that uses every website. That's certainly for our clients. And we've been having a lot of fun during COVID-19, and I feel sometimes I have to apologise for having such a lucky sort of business that has actually grown, because that's what's happened to us. But I suppose I'll get into my story in a bit.
Fantastic. So moving on to Jen. Jen, can we find out a bit more about you? What's going on with Incuto?
Hey, yeah, I'm Jen Anderson. Thanks, Ellie and Sarah, for inviting me to talk tonight. I'm CTO of Incuto. We're a fintech based just outside Leeds in Ilkley, and we are providing a SaaS banking platform for credit unions and community banks. Credit unions, for those who are unaware, are cooperative-led banks, and we are providing them with the functionality to allow them to operate similar to challenger banks. So kind of the expectations that, you know, customers would have currently around their banks. We provide that to credit unions and allow them to compete in the current digital market and provide digital transformation for them. So, and at the moment we're just surviving COVID. It feels like almost it's the norm now because we've been there for so long. And we're lucky in that we're a tech company and it was quite simple for us to go remote. And I guess tonight we're just going to be talking about what's next as people start returning to the office, and excited to be part of the topic and panel tonight.
Thank you. Going round my screen, so next we have, is it the king of Leeds Digital, Stuart Clarke? Stuart.
Yeah, thank you.
The Christmas of Leeds Digital as well, if he's
yes, well, that's the day job. Yeah, Stuart Clarke. So my day job is I run my own marketing and PR company, mainly working with tech firms to either promote themselves for customer acquisition purposes or client, employee acquisition. Also quite heavily involved in the startup sector in Leeds. So I'm a non-exec of 3 startups, and advisor, mentor, many others. Also, I'm the festival director, one of the co-founders of the Leeds Digital Festival, and we'll come on to that in a while, I expect, about how we turned it into an online festival this year. And I'm also taking bookings for Christmas parties, so if you want your kids to have Santa turn up.
Perfect. And obviously, last but not least, Joe, if you'd like to, just made it Joe.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. I'm in trouble if it's Joanna anyway. Thanks, Sarah. So my name's Jo Drake. I'm the CIO of the Hut Group. Predominantly, we're known for e-commerce and owning sort of luxury beauty, nutrition brands, manufacturing our brands as well. We're also a large technology business and a hosting business, and we do everything from sort of language translations, payment platforms, through to manufacturing and logistics and translations. Yeah, and we've been in a maybe a similar position to Gav, in that we've probably got problems a lot of businesses dream of. We've been growing under lockdown as well, and that's brought some challenges and massive opportunity with it as well. And I sit on the board of the UK IT Leaders Group, which was previously known as Northern IT Leaders, and I'm a trustee with the Trafford Domestic Abuse Services as well.
Thank you, Joe. And I think there is an interesting theme tonight about the organisations who we're speaking to from different perspectives. So, Gav, you're looking at the safety of e-commerce and making sure that e-commerce sites are working efficiently. Then you work with probably people in the who didn't have access to digital to enable them to access finance. And again, Joanna, you're working in that big e-commerce space, and Stuart, you kind of sit across the middle of it. So before we started, we were having a conversation about people not being confident to say that they're doing well at the moment, or they have some happiness at the moment. And I think as a digital sector, there are a lot of successes happening, and it's sort of things are starting to come through as a little bit of a green shoot and people saying things. But actually, the digital sector, we were the first to be able to get our workforces up and running remotely. Because of the way we were set up, we've been able to do a lot of pivoting because of the agility within our industry. So I'd be interested in finding out from each of you about adapting, I guess, to the new norm, what that has looked like, new norm, for your businesses, and where you see that continuing and growing. So maybe start with you, Jen.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, as I say, like 12 weeks ago, we were all presented as a management team with the scenario that it looked like we were going to go fully remote. Luckily for us, and I think for many tech companies, I mean, we're kind of just coming out of the startup phase. So we are growing, and we luckily had already set up that our staff could work remotely when they needed to. It wasn't something people did regularly, but it was if they needed to, when they needed to, we provided that flexibility. So for us, it was the technology was there to allow our staff members to do it. So it was just ensuring that the communication worked, that as the company, we're quite innovative, and for that it was to make sure that what happened when we get a room of developers together, we continue with that kind of energy and try and take that remote. So, so far it's been really successful. We've been using tools. I mean, I guess the most common for us has been Slack, and just ensuring, stuff like, as we're agile, it was simple enough to kind of move stand-ups and that onto Slack, but it was just ensuring that the communication is there, and that we don't lose that kind of energy and the connection that the team have. That's been really important for us.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I think you're a small agile business, and it's really, well, it's important for every business to be able to communicate. But I guess for you though, Joanna, your business is huge compared to a startup. Is it over 7,000 people working globally? So what has that been like for you guys?
It's been great because we were absolutely ready for it. So we were not a business where working from home was normal at all, completely the opposite. So very small, very tiny small percentage of people. I didn't know anybody that ever worked from home actually. But in all honesty, the last 18 months, we've been rolling out our digital workspace program, and it hasn't just been about the technology for us, it's been about the mindset of the teams and being able to build an agility where we can swing on a sixpence really quickly, because we're a business that's been growing really quickly. We have peaks, of course, with things like Black Friday, and we were trying to get ourselves in a position where we could say, bring on Black Friday every day, I don't care, we're ready. We can scale up, we can scale down. We could acquire a business and overnight we could double in size. You know, we've grown by acquisition, and we needed to have the right platforms and technology, the right mindset and the right suppliers, so we could go, so what, we've doubled overnight, I can click a few buttons and I can get kit delivered, I can get users provisioned, I can get software pulled down from the cloud. So we've been working on that for a good year. So for example, we had just finished all the prep we needed for zero touch provisioning. So we have grown massively under lockdown. We had to scale up customer service teams, and we've had hundreds and hundreds of staff join the business in the weeks on lockdown. So we would go, okay, that's fine. You've got 50 people starting on Monday. I've got a good supplier network set up. The PCs will go straight to their homes. You know, we will SMS them any details. We've got single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, log in, and everything will be provisioned from the cloud. So what, you know, so we've been working on that for a while, but you need the culture and the ability to turn your team really quickly. You need the technology and you need the suppliers for all of that to work. So luckily we were ready. It was a lot of hard work, but we were in a good position to show off all the stuff we'd put in place in the last year or so.
And I think as well, like thinking about that hook group and the culture, do you think that you guys have been able to retain some of that, or has that changed? Or you were saying that you think you've got to know people outside of the Manchester, you know, how's that worked? You know, keeping people engaged as a larger organisation.
Yeah, I think because we were very geographically dispersed anyway, we rolled out teams globally probably about 6 to 9 months before lockdown. Before that, we probably weren't as collaborative. We were very used to having daily stand-ups on video calls, to collaborating on SharePoint, you know, messaging on Teams, doing all our phone calls on Teams. We were very used to that. So we were used to touching base. Now, we've had to make sure during all of this that we are in regular contact. We were anyway, so that wasn't too different for us. But there's just so many other aspects we've had to think of during the lockdown, the people element, the wellness of everybody, both mentally and physically, and the environment that they're working in. And, you know, considering as well, people are working longer hours than they ever work. Productivity's gone through the ceiling. Nobody's taken any time off and nobody's sick. You know, is that a good or a bad thing? I'm not quite sure yet, but we do need to think about all that stuff as well. So that whole humanity and the personal side of it, and as a leader showing a bit of vulnerability as well, looking after everybody has been a big challenge, and something that you need to put a lot of focus and energy into.
Yeah, I agree. You know, within EY, we hadn't implemented Teams. And then we were about to, or we'd done a soft, you know, sort of soft launch, but had rolled it out with a small office. So we had like, I don't know, 400,000 people. But then when Skype went down, I think we did an implementation within, you know, sort of like 48 hours globally, because normally that would have taken forever. If you've got nothing else, you've got no other ways to communicate. It rolls out like a dream.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible, isn't it?
Roll out. Yeah. Anything that's about communication, throw it out now.
It does show that people can deal with change rapidly. Definitely.
Yeah, it does.
Too, yeah.
Gav, what about you guys at Rapid Spike?
Yeah, I mean, so as a SaaS business, we don't even own our own. We have a single server that we can call our own. So, you know, we're already ready for remote. It was literally just to say, oh, we're not going to work from the office today, and we can work remote probably for the rest of our lives if we wanted to. But I think bringing on to the subject of things like mental health and actually different people want different things from life. And I think sometimes we sort of force people to go into an office because we think it's the right thing for everybody. But some people want to be in every now and again. Some people want to be in 4 days a week. What is the correct balance of that? And that's one of the things that we've been sort of talking to our guys about and dealing with, because productivity is definitely up. There are no sick people, you're right, no sick people, productivity is up. You know, we decided virtually on the first day of lockdown, we decided to take on the biggest project we've ever done. We just said, right, we're going to rewrite our entire front end and do it the way we should have done it in the first place. And that's exactly what we've done. And we're coming to the end of that project now. And we couldn't have done that in the normal work atmosphere because other things get in the way. And you know, and as we've gone through the time of the lockdown, you know, it's become more apparent that e-commerce is becoming more and more important. Not that it wasn't important to people before, but those people with shops are going, hang on a minute, this is my only income stream at the moment. I really need to make sure this website's online and working and performant and secure. And then as hacks have gone up, so there's been 20% more people hacking away at, or trying to hack at least. And we've seen a couple of big ones recently, like Claire's accessories were hacked recently. You know, those scare stories then get people then Googling, going onto Twitter, going, how are we going to fix these problems? And, you know, and we've spent quite a lot of time making sure our content was there ready for this kind of opportunity. And I think, you know, our teams, I think it's going to be a really it's going to be transformational for us, because a lot of companies were going online anyway and doing more online business. And I think it was, I can't remember the stat itself, but it was something like 95% of all transactions by 2040 will be an online type transaction. Even if you're in a shop, you'll be using your online platform to buy something. That, you know, I think all that will accelerate, you know, and it won't be 2040, it'll be 2030 or even sooner, because people are really, really wanting to utilize their technology, because, you know, they've changed habits. A lot of people have changed their habits of going into a shop to then going, oh, it's online, I can get it at the touch of a button, which is, you know, I can tell I think the post office are going to put an Amazon box at the end of our street, because there's that many parcels turning up on a daily basis. Although that may have happened when I wasn't here anyway. But I think from a flexibility and work, we're looking at letting people decide how many days they want to spend in an office, but creating maybe a collaboration day where we all come in and we talk through our ideas, and we do that big face-to-face stuff. And maybe we have some learning and get some great people, like, you know, people on this panel to come and talk to our teams about the things that they're doing, and just completely reimagining and rethinking what work and a work environment is. And you don't get many opportunities like this to do it. And I think it's probably important that we all probably try and do that now, just reimagine what you can possibly do with it.
You're on mute.
Oh, I could just mumble to myself. And so before we move on to the return to workforce, because I think everybody I speak to is at a slightly different place for this, and you know, you're back in the office, Ellie. I can see you in your office. Do you know what I mean? So before we get there, I'd like to talk to you, Stuart, because I think that you're a good representation, and the festival which I'm involved with is a really good representation of taking things online and changing the status quo. And I think it would be good to talk through what happened with the festival on the actual dates, and how the world changed for you, and how businesses adapt and the city adapted around the festival. So I think that's a really interesting lesson.
Well, sort of generally, I think most of the tech firms I know within Leeds and wider, most of them locked down way before the official lockdown. You know, at least a week, and some 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. You know, many could see it coming. Many did a sort of day test to see if it could work, and never went back into the office. And you know, and I think if you can't do that as a tech firm, then, you know, it's struggling a little bit. And we did the same with a digital festival. On Friday the 13th, we had our 4-week cut-off period with about 250 events that we were going to push out from April the 20th. And of course, a few days later, we just had to cancel the whole physical side of it, because, you know, it was looking likely that there would be a formal lockdown, and obviously there was. And so from those 250 events, we didn't know what would happen. We didn't know how many firms had the time or headspace, because obviously a lot of firms have had their own issues making sure that the companies were going to keep going. But we ended up with 134 events as a virtual festival, and I think what was interesting to me, out of those 134, only 53 had originally been planned as physical events. So, you know, we had 80 odd that just came through within a few weeks of that gap between the cancelling the physical and starting the virtual. And I think that says a lot, and particularly around, you know, people still want to come together as a sector, people still want to learn, people still want to feel that there's a little bit of normality going, and putting an event on and being part of a festival that they've probably been part of for the last sort of 5 years. So I think that's really, really important. And one of the things, you know, over the last couple of months, I've spoken to dozens and dozens of companies, and it's really interesting. And Gav, just touching on some of the stuff you were saying about, you know, using the office for different ways. And it's almost like, do we use the office instead of coming into the office to get the work done? You come into the office to do that collaboration and creativity, and whether that's 1 day a week, 1 day a month, you know, I think we're going to see a real change in how companies use that space. But one of the things I've been really conscious of when I've been talking to people over the last couple of months is we need to make sure that, you know, having those easy decisions, if you can technically do something, you know, can you really, should you be doing it in terms of protect the health and well-being of the staff, you know? So if you're a 22-year-old and you're living in a shared house and you haven't got a kitchen table, you haven't got a study, you haven't got a space around you, do we expect those people to be, you know, crunched up on their bed for 8 hours a day? So, you know, how do we make sure that, you know, we look after them? And I've seen some great examples where people have been shipping their office chairs, terminals, just everything to make it, you know, as close to a good, positive work environment as possible. But it's really key. We just keep an eye on how we look after staff.
Yeah, and there's I guess things around that. So I'm speaking to people like Ellie's in the office, you know, and I've heard a few people who are like, oh, we're going to have 20% of our workforce back in the office in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have 30% of the workforce. And it's interesting because during this time, people have said all those things, Stuart, like, you know, we'll use the workspace for collaboration. We'll do this, you know, like we're going to change the way we work as a business. We're going to change, you know, to more flexible approach. People can work a certain amount of days. But I'm still suspicious a little bit that we will, as humans and creatures of habit, just go back to how we were before. So I was interested in thinking, like, as businesses, have you like structured things, or do you, you know, because I don't think unless we say and actually structure this and say we're going to do this and this is what it looks like, we will just go back to as we were before in a way.
It is, and I think that's a really key point there, because yeah, we're creatures of habit, and I think part of it is how do you keep a team culture if everybody's fully working remotely? How do you keep it? We're all there when we've, you know, worked in various companies, and you can sniff the air and see how people are doing and see if people are happy that day, and you realize someone's been quiet a little bit, so you can have a chat with them, make sure they're okay. That's really hard to do on a Zoom call because people put the Zoom face on and smile and nod for an hour.
Agree. Is there anything anybody else particularly thinks that they're doing about building sort of a new workplace environment? Are there any actions that you're aware that you or your business have taken at the moment that are sort of formalized or conceptual around what your new workforce is going to look like? Does anybody want to talk about that? Gav?
Yeah, quite happily. I mean, so this is all conceptual, really, but talking to the team, you know, you have literally varying degrees of people who don't like being in the office at all because they feel disruptive. They like to get, like, literally they come into the office, they stick their headphones on in the office, so they might as well not talk to anyone anyway, and then they leave. So then there's the other guys who really feed off people and really need people around them. So, I mean, conceptually, we're looking at this, we call it the 1 to 4 plan. So you can choose any day between 1 and 4 that you're in the office. You can't have 5 and you can't have none. And basically, those who really, you know, we've got a 22-year-old developer who has only just joined us and will probably benefit from being in the office and around a couple of people. And we've got, you know, the family man who would rather be at home and he has to travel, you know, an hour and a half to commute to work. So he might come in once a week to do that collaboration day. So it's like trying to firm that up to see what's best and suits for everyone, and then have the appropriate amount of desks for the appropriate amount of people based on, yeah, I'm sure it'll be a bit more complicated than what I'm rolling out there, because, you know, desks, booking desks, cleaning desks, God knows whatever else we have to do will be complicated. But it is, I am 100% think that I've got to rethink this whole thing.
Agreed. Anybody else want to come in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Sarah, that's it. I think what people are realizing is that, you know, there's a really interesting statistic before this that, you know, if you ask people, 99% of them said they would like to do remote working. I mean, that's a massive statistic. I think, though, the reality, having most people doing 100% remote working, most people don't like that. So I think that, you know, it's that happy balance, and it's saying, you know, the future will look like there'll be core instead of hours, probably days where people need to be in the office, because I think it is important that, you know, people are together on specific days in order to ensure appropriate collaboration and that. But at the same time, I think that for those people that, for their lifestyle where they prefer to work remotely a couple of days, that's definitely something that is a viable option for most companies at the moment. I think for a lot of companies, there was management or leaders, there was this fear that how do you effectively run a company remotely? But we're all sitting here 3 months down the line and we've all done it, you know? And as you say, a huge part of it is that everyone has stood up and pay their part. You know, everyone has said, I'm going to make sure that I can work effectively from home. It's not just the, you know, making it happen. It's people ensuring that there hasn't been any impact on business. So I think, you know, as leaders within companies, we have been able to see how the employees have been able to step up, and that will reduce the fear of people returning back to this 5 days a week. Everyone's got to be sitting in the office, because we know we can do it. If that makes sense. But I think, like, for us at the moment, it's planning how do we get back to the office. So, you know, we're at the situation now where, you know, the government have said we can start returning back. It's like, as you say, are we going to, you know, start opening the office for a few people, for everyone? And it's just trying to ensure that. And I guess it's also looking at who you share your office space with as well. If there's any companies, you know, we share ours with a care home, an office. So it's not a care home, sorry, that sounds like we share it, with an office that like you know, enables like care workers, you know, to an agency. So it's just ensuring that, you know, that is also a risk for us at the moment in opening the office up. So
yeah, I think there's so many things to think about. One is depending on what your role is and who your customer is. So, you know, if you're a packer in a warehouse, that's one thing. If you're a tech support person supporting all the tech in the packing bench that the packer uses, then your role kind of is there in the warehouse. And then there's kind of reacting to what different areas of the business do. And then if you're a support service, for example, so if many more people started working from home, I don't necessarily need my frontline staff tech support in the office if everybody's at home. Otherwise, I'm going to have more support people in the office than there are people that they're supporting. And then there's things like, I think about engineers that work in our global operations centre who are very happy working from home, but you know, when they're in the office, they have an enormous video wall that has all our monitoring running on it, and it's much easier for them to see what's going on. It kind of aids them in their job. Then there's everybody's individual circumstance, the office they're in, you know, is it a shared office? Are you on the 20th floor, or can you drive to that office and park outside? Do you have to get public transport? You know, there's just so many, it almost feels like it's a case by case basis, depending on the role, the personal circumstance, the location, the office, and there's quite a lot to think about.
I agree, and I think I've heard people, or thought about people saying, you know, that actually as employers, every employee now is different, and if everybody was treated as a human and had their own circumstances, then is that how you employ somebody? And do you tear up the employment contract that says you work 9 to 5 and you work from here? And do you say, okay, we're going to employ you, and this is your parameters, and off you go. And can we do that and treat people as individual humans? And then that brings into, you know, a fairness around women who may be new mums and want to, you know, flexibility. It might bring in people who have neurodiversity and work in different ways, and it starts making more of a level playing field maybe for some of our employees. Okay, so we've got some questions. So one of which is something you guys touched on, and I think it's interesting actually, because everyone said productivity is up, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because maybe we need to stop some people. But the question's about, if productivity is up, does that mean we can cut back on resource, and are we expecting more out of teams? So that would be interesting. So Joanna, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's actually something I've not thought about too much because we've got so much to do. But yeah, I guess it is something where, because productivity is up and we've delivered so much under lockdown, you know, will we deliver in the second half of the year the same velocity that we've delivered in the first half of the year? A lot of people are going to want to take a break, whether they can get away to the sun or not, and they should take a break because that's healthy. So if you imagine, you know, none of my team are taking any holidays really in the first half of the year, what's going to happen in the second half of the year? Will it just balance itself out? And we've taken this as an opportunity to just smash out as much as we can and get stuff done. You know, we've rolled out a CRM in lockdown. You know, that probably would have taken us longer in the office, but we've absolutely honed in on it and focused on it and had the right technology in place to make that actually technically possible as well. So I don't know if it will just even out over time. And I guess it depends on whether you're in a growing business or if you're in a business that's actually decreasing in size and revenue, and therefore it is seen as a, do you know what, we can do more with less. So I guess it could go either way. It depends where your business is sitting.
Yeah, and I think maybe moving on to you, Gab, but there's that thing as well, isn't there, that if no one's taken any holiday and everybody's worked harder, are we all like going to burn out pretty soon as well? Because it's the same at EY, like we've all been told, take holiday, because it's not just that, you know, we're going to burn out, but also businesses are, if all of a sudden 80% of your workforce all wants to take holiday at the same time, can the business operate as well? So there's the commercial side of it. So what are your thoughts around this?
We've sort of, a lot of our guys have been sort of taking a Friday off or a Monday off, you know, just to chip away at holidays and have a little bit of a break and get away from the video stuff, and just, you know, chill out a little bit. You know, normally you'd see people in the office on their birthday and they take the day off for their birthday now, you know, because they're like, might as well, why not? And so we're sort of chipping away a bit, but we are going to have a holiday issue at some point. But that is going to hopefully be, you know, over when we've delivered this massive project, and hopefully our clients are going to be so delighted with it that they're not going to mind us not delivering a couple of features for a while. And with regards to productivity, we're delighted that we've got this high productivity because we can chip into the massive mountain of stuff that I've still got to do that I would still need extra people for anyway. And then, so if we can deliver more features, we'll probably get more clients. We can then hire more people. And so if anyone from a board level challenged me on, you know, having less resources, I would probably try and tell them that our productivity is exactly the same, and that we still need those extra resources because there's so much to do. But yeah, no, definitely not thinking about not hiring or getting rid of anybody. Definitely couldn't furlough anyone. We just needed everybody.
Okay, and you, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is with productivity is that there's been very few distractions in the fact that no one can go to the pub, no one can do any sports. So, you know, no one really has to rush off for anything. So when people, you know, when you have got to put in the extra hours or something needs to be delivered, it's a, you know, for people it's a hell of a lot easier because they're not having the distractions of life. And I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the increased productivity is around that, and it's not a real life scenario. Life is hopefully going to go back to normal, and people need to get back to their lives. And so there is an increase in productivity. And I think some of it is obviously people have got by not commuting up to 2 hours extra a day. And I think people are in a way happy to give that to work. But I think along the lines of, you know, there's only maybe so many Netflix videos, documentaries you can watch, and you just think, do you know what, I'll stay later and get my work done. And maybe in reality, when life returns to normal, they'll have plans that they won't be so willing to drop. So I think that kind of spiking in productivity, although is because people are so keen to ensure that it works for the company, is also to do with the fact that there's just not a huge amount else to distract them with.
Yeah, I feel though as well there might be two things of that as well, because I know that I'm a single mum, so when I have to be quite tight with my work hours and my time, because if I don't, then I don't teach my son, and so maybe I'm working probably similar hours, but I'm trying to keep really focused and, you know, like make it work. So I think it's making sure that, you know, being aware that some people might not be able to do those extra hours as well, and taking everybody on I guess a case by case basis. Stuart, anything you'd like? Yeah, go on, sorry.
Oh no, go on, Stuart.
I think like many people, those sort of first 5, 6, 7 weeks, the days just all drifted into one, and over the last sort of month or so, I've made a real effort to properly switch off for the weekend. So you know it's the weekend, you're getting a proper break. I think one of the things that many firms have to be aware of in terms of productivity is it a sort of false boost, because, you know, staff are working 8 till 6, 8 till 7, and again, is that you know, when's that burnout coming? And so I think it's, again, going back to that mental health aspect. So we, you know, are we making sure we're looking after staff? And I think one of the key things as well at the moment, you know, a lot of people will go to networking events, will go to physical webinars, and not physical webinars, but physical sort of learning events on a normal basis, and that's how we collaborate, that's how we grow, that's how we learn, and obviously that's not happening at the moment. So I think we just need to be aware of how do we fill in those gaps. And if I just go back to the festival at the moment, when we decided to cancel the physical event in March, and we pushed the physical side back to September, because, you know, it was 6 months away, and it was all this was going to be over then in 6 months. It was easily going to happen. And I think what we're seeing, talking to event organisers and sponsors and everything, we're still coming back at the end, last 2 weeks in September, but we'll see, and some people are just desperate and determined to put physical events on, but I think we'll see a real mix. And I think at the moment, I think we'll probably end up with about 40% physical events and about 60% still online, because a lot of people still don't want to come back into town. Those physical events, if there are sort of 40 people of a typical attendance, you might have it in a room that can fit 120, so there'll still be that social distancing. But I think it's really important that people still come together and carry on learning, and I think we need to give people the time to do that.
Yeah, I think I agree, Stuart. I mean, last year we put on the Wild event and we had over 500 attendees in the day. We're thinking about now, I don't think we can do that. And now, what does that look like? How do we, you know, change the dynamic? Because we want it to be a time where people come together. I'm just coughing. I hate coughing during coronavirus. But Stuart, taking that on, there's a question from Dave Jones. And he was saying that Northern IT leaders have got a conference planned in September. They've run a poll and it's 50-50 with regards to people who want to attend, if they're allowed, or would rather do it virtually. And he was asking about running a hybrid event, running it virtual video, and those who don't. And maybe have you got any ideas from the last digital festival?
Well, just on that, a good example of that. Last year I went out to Tallinn in Estonia. They have this big event each May called Latitude 59, and about 3,000 people. It's a 2-day tech festival, about 3,000 people, and of course they cancelled this year's, and they're going to have it at the end of August. But instead of having 3,000 people, they're just going to have 400 physically in the same space, and then the rest of the attendees will be online. So I think that's probably a good model that conference organisers can put together. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that I actually think that makes it more inclusive, because, you know, especially for people who maybe if something's in a different location, or if you've got young children, you're not always able to like stay in after work for a few hours. So when it's a virtual event, it's quite simple. It's an hour, you can take that out of your evening. So I think the movement from the physical to a hybrid will actually be more inclusive.
That's it, yeah. Well, just on that point, Jen, you know, we had attendees for this year's festival from 50 countries around the world, which, you know, nobody's going to come to Leeds to attend one hour webinar. And also what we found as well, you know, normally, you know, we don't get any of these filmed and recorded. Virtually every single one of those 134 events was recorded. You know, I signed up for quite a few, but I couldn't make the time for various things, but just went on later and watched it afterwards. So that was good. And also as well, I sort of chaired a couple of panels, and we had so many people asking questions through the chat function, which again, that's much more inclusive, because most people, I'm the same one, stick your hand up in a room full of 200-300 people, most people just won't do it. So when you can do it through a chat function, it does make it much more inclusive.
Yeah, definitely. I think it gives the attendees that flexibility as well, doesn't it? About how do they prefer to consume information as well? Do you want to be there face to face, physically sticking your hand up, or you best, you know, sat with your laptop typing your questions in? And also those times when you want to go to a conference, there's a couple of things you're really interested in, but you can't take the 2 days out or travel there, or something happens, which happens to us, particularly in our roles. Could be a major something kicking off, or a priority that pops up and you think, oh, I just can't make it, you know, but I wish I could still join that session on whatever, because that would be really useful to me right now. So I think there's a lot of benefits to running these events hybrid.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I love the fact that we've got a panel. You know, the panel thing works really well, because you got all the 6 faces, you can get the questions, and that's all fab. But then there's 31 people that I can't sort of go, hi, how are you doing? You all right? Have you got, and they can't approach you. And that's the thing that I really miss, and I didn't realize I missed it until I've done this, that I really enjoy talking just to anyone, to be quite frank. And now I'm probably bugging strangers in the street, and they're going, keep away from me, 2 meters. But yeah, I miss that people contact, I miss that social contact. And that's even with a hybrid event, you'd still get less people, and there'd be like 200 people that maybe in there's someone amazing that I really want to talk to. I'm going to miss out on that.
It's interesting, isn't it? I know that you miss meeting me most weeks for a beer, Stuart Clarke, and I miss meeting you for a beer most weeks, and a little cuddle. But is there maybe like space for AI interactions? Because right now we can't interact, and I've seen a few people now looking at like VR sets, sets for people to be meeting and talking in VR and sort of that sort of world. Has anybody looked at that stuff? Because we were looking at it for our event. We were like, Women in Leeds Digital, could we do it virtually? Could we have people come into rooms and have been looking at some of that stuff? And it's not the same though, is it? It's just, it's not the same.
Well, I haven't tried it myself, but I know a couple of people who've been on various sort of events where it's been a sort of VR, you get your avatar, and they say it's quite fun, for the first 10 minutes, but then it's still not quite right. Yeah.
I agree. We've got an Oculus in my house, and it's weird, and you're just a floating head chatting to. It's not the same. There's no cuddles. There's no beer.
Yeah, I don't think technology is there, and I think it's too expensive still for it to become kind of an everyday thing.
Agreed. Okay. So there was one other thing that I thought would be really interesting to cover off, and I think it's around the future in hiring at the moment. So you've all said that you're doing well. I think that that's different across the industry. But I think about junior staff, and I think about the last recession, and we stopped hiring junior people into digital during that time. And it's had a really big effect on our talent pipeline, because we stopped hiring young, talented people. We ended up having this, big drought as one of the reasons. And at the minute, I worry that as an industry, we're going to stop looking at those bright young things and there could be a real drought in our talent pipelines. And I'm interested, you know, what people are thinking as organisations. Actually, as EY, it's the one place we didn't stop hiring were graduates, because we understand the economic, you know, like someone's done an investigation and got some data and, you know, said to do that. But I just wonder what other people's opinions are, where they're hiring, are they still hiring, like what's important to them with regards to moving their businesses forward. So maybe start with you, Gav.
You're on mute, Gav.
Do you want me back into the question again? Because I was reading another question.
Gav?
How rude.
Gav? So no, I was talking about to the future. So
yeah, the graduate stuff.
Some people aren't hiring. Gav, you and I have had a background together of hiring graduates.
So, I mean, for me, if there was ever a great time to hire graduates, it would be right now. Like, you know, there must be the talent that certainly an SME can get hold of at graduate level now must be huge. You know, so I've sort of heard of sort of large organisations just dropping the graduate programmes in its entirety, leaving a lot of people, you know, and understandably, I get what they've done, but it's, you know, I've actually got a graduate job advert out there now because I thought it's a good idea to get hold of someone talented. And judging by the CVs we've got, we may have to take on a couple of them because it's just much higher caliber than I was expecting at our level. So I think, you know, I think if I was a betting man, I would try and look, and talent will build our businesses in the future, and we will come out of this. And if we and as we come out of it, we will try and innovate and do different things. And you find that young minds tend to have great ways of looking at things in a new and fresh way. And I think hiring now and getting young people would be a really good idea.
Joanna, you have a Hook Group, a huge, you know, graduate program that's really successful. Actually, my niece has been there 2 years in a buying capacity, and her career has completely excelled. So I have first-hand feedback of how wonderful it can be. Yeah, is that still a priority with you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're actually, so within tech, our grad program is called the Accelerator Program, and we actually accelerated the Accelerator Program to actually bring grads in earlier. So that means, you know, I got to bring on a load more, the Macs, you know, for the grads. I'm going to need to buy a load more Macs, and I need to get those out to their homes ready for them to start. And then today, actually, we've had our apprenticeship presentation panels as well, which have been absolutely brilliant. But what we have been really careful about, especially, you know, the apprentices that can be really quite young, is making sure we've got a really clear plan about what life is going to look like for them. You know, these people haven't had a full-time job yet, you know, they're at school. So, which is a massive step anyway, let alone right now. So we just make it really clear about the training program that they're going to go through. We have some great sort of roadmaps and learning paths mapped out for people, you know, from even before the day they join, about exactly what will happen, exactly who will be looking after you, especially during lockdown. So we've probably just been a little bit more robust than we usually would be, but we've certainly not stopped. If anything, we've gone faster.
Yeah, and I think when many years ago, Gav and I worked together to build a graduate program for the test people, and actually part of it was like things like you have to be at work at 9 a.m. You know, like this is what teamwork looks like, and it was just a whole lifestyle change. You forget what a big change is, especially, you know, talk about graduates, but there's people who maybe like haven't been to university and apprenticeships, and actually it's a big part of growing up, your first job. It's a big,
it's massive, massive part of your life, and you're playing a big part in that, and you really need to bear in mind all the stuff outside the job that they're dealing with as well, you know, getting used to working life, and you know, a lot of them still living with their parents as well, and the parents are quite a big influence on them. That I know mine were, you know, I was having my first job and still living at home. My mum and dad, they were very influential on you know, well, tried to be on my decision making. And you have to bear all of that in mind as well. They're growing up with you, so yeah, you really need to look after them.
I agree. Jen, Stuart.
Yeah, just on that point, Joe, I think it's really key point there about how we look after this current bunch of apprentices and graduates, because if they're not going to be in the office like normally, and many of it will know Anna Sutton from the Data Shed, and she made a great point on an event a couple of weeks ago about how those first 2 or 3 years when she was working, she'd just pick things up. You know, that'd be formal learning that your company does, but you pick things up by just being in the office, listening to people, and we've got a danger of missing out on, you know, this generation missing out on that. So it's almost like, what can we do to make sure we're filling in some of those gaps, get the formal learning, but how do we make sure that, you know, if someone's coming to the office one day a fortnight, they're missing out on that really informal learning by the coffee machine and everything.
Oh, definitely. And even, you know, you're in the office, and when you're going to have a question every 5 minutes at the beginning, and when you're in the office, you're just going to turn around and ask a colleague or a team leader or a coach or something like that, and that isn't there. So you have to make it really clear. You know, getting stuck when you're a junior is scary. It's scary anyway when you're in an office surrounded by people, and it's making it clear, how do you get help? I'm in my bedroom on my laptop and I'm stuck. Who's going to help? And, you know, we've got a lot of stuff around that, around, you know, rooms you jump in. The senior engineers always available to ask them anything. They're there on video all the time. So yeah, that's really, really important. But they would be missing out on those coffee machines.
Yeah, and all the graduates going to the pub after work on a Friday, and, you know, swapping the gossip and helping each other. Yeah, building those bonds. Yeah.
It's really important. Yeah, it's a good point.
It's true. And Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's critical for graduates that we ensure that we have the correct level of mentoring. I think so much of it's not just ensuring that the process is documented and that they understand what they need to do and who they need to talk to. And as you say, make sure that there's somebody there, that there's, you know, if they're developers, there's a paired programming, which you would do anyway, but just ensuring that you're kind of extending that, and that as you say, to have the confidence to know who they need to talk to. And in a way, sometimes it is easier for people to just send a message to someone than to ask them, but they do miss out, as you say, on building the relationships. And it's key is like, how do you, you know, build that relationship when people are virtual? And I think it's just kind of ensuring maybe that not everything is based around when you're on these chats about just work. It's also maybe trying to ensure that you have some kind of social element to it. It's never going to be the same. And I think that, you know, definitely, I think the younger people, graduates, are missing out hugely, and possibly will need to definitely be part of some of the first people returning, you know, in that way. But I think it's critical that we ensure that we can support people coming on that aren't experienced, because, you know, another thing that's come from this pandemic is there's going to be a lot of people that will have lost jobs. And it's a huge opportunity for people to retrain and to maybe look at, you know, we've got great things, you know, we've got stuff like Code Nation and North Coders, and there's loads of different places where people can pick up coding and maybe decide that this is their opportunity to get into tech. And I think, you know, part of it is, how do we encourage people to do that? And as companies, we need to be saying, right, you know, 12 weeks, 20 weeks down the line, we might end up with this group of people who maybe they haven't come out of university, but they've done these coding courses, and how do we support them and ensure that, you know, we can help people with that transition.
I agree. And actually, should businesses be, rather than making redundancies, retraining their own staff into coding rather than letting them go and then having to be unemployed and then retrain and leave? Should that be a normal thing that businesses start to take seriously in-house? And I know that a friend of mine, Leanne, started running a code academy at Leeds Digital. And it was basically to give people like a basic understanding of what the digital world looked like, and that they learned to write some basic code, but it just meant that they were digitally aware and were able to have conversations, and they weren't going to be developers, but they were exposed to that world and felt that they could maybe start considering roles and opportunities in it. So I think it's really, really powerful to start exposing everybody to that, and not just graduates and young people, because there are a lot of people who, I know at the minute we've got maybe 40% of the workforce furloughed in many industries, and not all those people are going to go back to work. So you know, how do we deal with that population? So we are at the end of the event, so I wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Gav, Joanna, Stuart and Jen. and just hand back to Ellie to close. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming and listening tonight.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much for hosting the panel, Sarah. And thank you so much to our lovely guests for taking the time out of their busy schedules to spend their evening with us. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this evening, but if anyone's got any questions, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I'm sure the speakers will be happy if you reach out to them directly about any of the topics that we discussed this evening. We are hosting a number of webinars. I've got another 2 next week that may be of interest as well. So please do follow Transition Partners on LinkedIn to keep up to date with the upcoming webinars that we've got in place as well. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us this evening. Lovely having you here.